Rule 1 of 12. Here is Rule 1. Over 80% of carry-on rejections at the gate have nothing to do with the height of your suitcase. It is almost always about a tiny half-inch of depth. Picture Emily. She is a 34-year-old nurse arriving at Nashville International Airport, also known as BNA, for a quick weekend flight to visit family. She has used the same blue hard-shell bag for 3 years without a single issue. But today, the gate agent is on a mission. He is using a metal sizer box, and he is looking for targets. Emily steps up, confident her bag fits. She tries to slide it into the metal frame. It stops halfway. The height is exactly 22 inches, which is the legal limit for most domestic carriers. But her front pocket is bulging with a heavy sweatshirt and a pair of sneakers. That bulge adds just enough depth to make the bag wider than 9 inches. The agent looks at her and shakes his head. It is a $75 fee to gate-check the bag right now. Emily feels the heat rise in her face as she reaches for her credit card. That fee is more than the cost of her actual flight. Stop. Here is the fix you need to remember. Most airlines follow a strict 9-inch depth rule. When you overpack that front pocket, you are basically painting a target on your back. Measure your bag when it is fully packed, not when it is empty. If it exceeds 9 inches, move your heavy items like laptops or shoes to your personal item or backpack. It takes 2 minutes, but saves you a fortune in gate fees. Reality check, though. While some agents are lenient, if the flight is fully booked, they will use any technicality to move bags to the cargo hold. Now, while Emily is paying her fee, another traveler is about to face an even bigger headache at the security checkpoint. Rule 2 of 12. Moving on to Rule 2. You should check your packing layers right now before you leave for the terminal. Lily is a 29-year-old photographer standing at a security checkpoint in Kansas City International Airport, or MCI. Her heart starts to race as the conveyor belt suddenly jerks to a halt. The lead TSA agent squinted at the monitor with a look of pure confusion. He sees a dark, unidentifiable mass on the X-ray screen. "Bag check," he calls out. Lily's face flushes with embarrassment. She isn't carrying anything illegal or dangerous, but she had packed her professional camera gear, 3 portable battery chargers, and a solid copper water bottle in one dense stack at the bottom of her bag. To the scanner, that overlapping metal looks like a total black hole. Stop. Here is the secret to avoiding this delay. TSA technology often struggles with something called shielding. This happens when dense items overlap, creating an opaque block on the operator's screen that they cannot see through. To avoid the dreaded manual search and a 20-minute delay, you should spread your electronics across the bin in a single layer. Never stack your iPad on top of your laptop. Keep metal thermoses or water bottles empty and placed in their own corner. Most agents are just looking for clarity so they can move the line along. Not a reason to ruin your morning. Lily eventually cleared the line, but only after a stressful manual inspection that almost made her miss her boarding call. Next, we dive into the specific labels that can turn a luxury gift into a total loss in seconds. Rule 3 of 12. Rule 3 is a bitter lesson about precision. Gabriel is a 36-year-old teacher standing at the security checkpoint in Brussels Airport, or BRU. He is carrying a brand new bottle of high-end cologne he bought for his wife. He checked the label carefully before leaving and saw it was 3.5 ounces. The security agent takes one look at the glass bottle and shakes his head. That extra tenth of an ounce just turned a $70 gift into garbage. Gabriel tries to explain the bottle is nearly empty, but it does not matter. It is maddening. To airport security, a 3.5-ounce container is just as illegal as a gallon of water. The global standard is strictly 3.4 ounces, which is exactly 100 milliliters. There are almost never any exceptions to this rule. Stop. Always check the physical volume printed on the container, not how much liquid is actually inside. Even if a bottle is 90% empty, security only cares about the capacity of the vessel itself. If you are slightly over the limit, you must move the liquid to a dedicated travel-sized container before you reach the airport. Gabriel had to watch his expensive bottle hit the trash bin while other passengers watched. He was fuming, but the rule stayed firm. It is a tough pill to swallow for any traveler. But do you know what happens when the airline decides your seat actually belongs to someone else? The next secret might save your entire vacation budget. Rule 4 of 12. Rule 4 deals with that sudden pit in your stomach when the gate agent announces the overhead bins are full. Elizabeth is a 42-year-old lawyer standing at gate B32 in Denver International Airport, or DEN. She is clutching her standard 22-inch carry-on as the line slows to a crawl. Her flight is completely packed. The agent begins demanding that the remaining passengers check their bags at the jet bridge for a fee. Elizabeth is worried because she has sensitive medical equipment inside her bag. Checking it into the cargo hold simply is not an option for her. Most people in this situation just comply and hand over their luggage. Stop. Here is the strategy Elizabeth used. Airlines often gate check bags for free when the bins are full, but they are generally restricted from checking life-saving medical gear or certain fragile items that must stay in the cabin. Elizabeth calmly approached the desk and said that her bag contains a medical device that needs to remain in the cabin for the duration of the flight. The agent paused, checked her tag, and then simply nodded and let her through. It worked perfectly. This simple, honest statement saved her luggage from being tossed around by baggage handlers. Elizabeth made it to her seat without paying a dime or losing sight of her equipment. Knowing your bag specifications is important, but knowing your rights when a flight is overbooked is even more critical. Rule 5 of 12. Rule 5 covers a shocking statistic. Over 25,000 passengers are bumped from flights annually because airlines frequently sell seats that do not exist. Harper is a 25-year-old marketing specialist facing this exact situation at London Heathrow, or LHR. The gate agent announces the flight is overbooked and offers a $200 travel voucher to anyone willing to volunteer their seat. Harper almost grabbed the voucher, thinking it was a good deal. Stop. These vouchers are often traps designed to save the airline money. They frequently come with blackout dates and short expiration periods that make them hard to use. If you are involuntarily bumped from a flight, the law often mandates cash compensation, not just a store credit. In the United States, for a delay over 2 hours, you could be eligible for 400% of your one-way fare, which is currently capped at $1,550. You must ask specifically for involuntary denied boarding compensation in the form of a check or cash. Most airline agents will not offer this high amount unless you show that you know the specific term. Harper refused the voucher and eventually secured a $1,300 check after a short wait. Hit like if this tip just saved you a month of rent. Now prepare yourself for the next hurdle of surviving on the airport tarmac. Rule 6 of 12. Rule 6 requires you to check the clock the moment those heavy cabin doors click shut. Asher is a 31-year-old accountant sitting on a burning tarmac at Salt Lake City International Airport, or SLC. He has been sitting there for nearly 3 hours without moving an inch. The cabin air feels stale and thin, and he feels like a prisoner in a pressurized metal tube. But here is the secret that Asher knew. You actually have an escape timer. Under Department of Transportation regulations, airlines generally cannot keep you on a domestic flight for over 3 hours without giving you the option to deplane. Once the delay hits the 2-hour mark, the airline is required to provide passengers with food, water, and access to clean restrooms. Asher stayed calm because he knew the flight crew was watching a countdown. If that timer hits the 0 mark, the airline faces massive federal fines. Stop. This isn't a magic escape button for every situation. Safety concerns or air traffic control security issues can legally pause the clock. Asher eventually made it home safely after the plane finally took off. But he knew exactly when he could have demanded to get off. Now, let us see if you can survive the actual quality of the air inside the cabin. Rule 7 of 12. Rule 7 is for when the worst-case scenario happens at the baggage carousel. Matteo is a 55-year-old chef who just landed at Copenhagen Airport, or CPH, after a 10-hour journey. He watched the empty carousel spin for 30 minutes until the lights finally dimmed. His suitcase was nowhere to be found. At the service desk, the agent handed him a small plastic bag with a cheap toothbrush and a $50 voucher. "This is all we can offer you right now," she said with a sigh. Matteo felt a wave of helplessness because his expensive professional knives and a custom suit were in that bag. Stop. Here is the real move you need to make. Do not just walk away with the kit. You must demand a Property Irregularity Report, or a PIR, before you leave the airport. Under international treaties like the Montreal Convention, major airlines are liable for reasonable expenses caused by delayed or lost luggage. In the United States, this liability can cover up to $3,800 for domestic flights. Matteo filed the formal PIR and kept every single receipt for the replacement clothes and tools he had to buy the next day. It took a few weeks of paperwork, but he was eventually reimbursed for every penny. Now you are ready for lost bags. But what about the invisible threats to your health while you fly? Rule 8 of 12. Rule 8 explains why some passengers get stopped for a bag check while others breeze through without a second glance. At Dublin Airport, or DUB, Alexander is a 47-year-old software engineer standing in line for his morning departure. His carry-on bag is stuffed to the limit and weighs about 3 pounds over the airline's official weight restriction. He watches the gate agent's eyes scan the crowd like a hawk searching for prey. Stop. The agent isn't actually looking for a scale. She is looking for signs of physical struggle. Alexander noticed a traveler ahead of him grunting and straining while trying to adjust a very small bag. The agent immediately stepped in and pointed to the metal sizer. Alexander took a breath, stood tall, and kept his heavy bag tucked close to his leg while walking with total ease. It worked perfectly. Most agents only flag bags that look heavy or oversized based on how the passenger is carrying them. If you move comfortably and look like your bag weighs nothing, you are much more likely to stay off their radar. On a completely packed flight, they might check every bag regardless of how you look. But appearing effortless is your best first line of defense. Ready for more? The next tip is a literal lifesaver for your digestive system. Rule 9 of 12. Rule 9 is a warning about what you consume while in the air. Only 15% of aircraft water tanks pass basic health standards in some independent studies. Think about that for a second. Luke is a 39-year-old data scientist standing in line at Baltimore-Washington International, or BWI, and he desperately needs a caffeine fix. He watches the flight attendant pour a steaming cup of tea for the passenger in front of him. Luke feels a wave of nausea because he knows the reality of those tanks. They are rarely scrubbed, and the fill ports are often located very close to the waste lines, where the lavatories are drained. Bacteria like E. coli have been detected in these systems in the past. It is a stomach-turning reality of modern air travel. The fix is very simple. Stick to bottled or canned drinks only. If you absolutely need a hot coffee or tea, you should buy it at the terminal in Baltimore before you board the aircraft. Even many experienced flight attendants will skip the onboard coffee for this exact reason. Reality check. It is very rarely lethal, but the grime in those pipes is real and documented. Luke chose a sealed ginger ale instead and felt much better about his choice. Now, let us look at the most contaminated surface in the entire cabin. Rule 10 of 12. Rule 10 is about the first thing you should do when you sit down. You need to wipe down your tray table immediately. Benjamin is a 22-year-old student from Portland International Airport, or PDX, who is very focused on hygiene. He watched his seatmate rest his bare forehead directly on the tray table to take a nap. It made Benjamin's skin crawl. Most travelers assume the lavatory is the most germ-infested place on the plane, but they are usually wrong. Scientific tests show that tray tables can harbor 8 times more bacteria per square inch than the bathroom flush button. We are talking about over 2,000 colony-forming units of bacteria. Cleaning crews often have less than 15 minutes to reset an entire cabin between flights, so they usually only have time to grab large pieces of trash. Stop. Always reach into your bag and grab a disinfectant wipe the moment you sit down. Clean the latch, the entire tray surface, and the armrests. Benjamin stayed healthy throughout his trip because he took 30 seconds to sanitize his area. You can do the same. Most of these germs are harmless, but taking caution prevents a full week of misery after your vacation ends. Now, let us wrap up with a final travel secret that could save your life on a long-haul flight. Rule 11 of 12. Rule 11 addresses a silent danger that many young travelers ignore. Mila is a 24-year-old graphic designer settling into seat 42B at Minneapolis-St. Paul International, or MSP. She is preparing for a 9-hour flight across the ocean. About 5 hours into the trip, she feels a dull, persistent ache throbbing in her left calf. She tries to ignore it, thinking it is just a normal muscle cramp from the cramped seating. Stop. This is not a normal cramp. Deep vein thrombosis, or DVT, is a legitimate medical risk caused by sitting perfectly still for long periods in a low-pressure cabin. It does not matter if you are young, fit, or healthy. The fix is remarkably simple. Every hour you are awake, you should perform ankle pumps by flexing your feet up and down 20 times. You should also aim to drink 8 ounces of water every hour to keep your blood moving and prevent dehydration. Mila eventually stood up to stretch and walk the aisle, feeling the pressure in her leg finally fade away. Reality check. While DVT is statistically rare, the risk spikes significantly on any flight over 4 hours. Move your legs, stay hydrated, and you will walk off that plane safely. Mila arrived at her destination in one piece because she refused to stay like a statue in her seat. Now, for the final piece of the travel puzzle. Rule 12 of 12. Rule 12 is about how to handle the sinking feeling in your chest right after you hit the buy button on a ticket. Olivia is a 58-year-old real estate agent from Boston Logan International, or BOS, who just booked a flight for $1,200. 1 hour later, she refreshed the page and saw the exact same seat for $850. She felt sick to her stomach thinking about the $350 she just wasted. Olivia assumed she was stuck with the non-refundable ticket because she didn't buy the expensive insurance. Most people just accept the loss and move on. Stop. You are not stuck. Under Department of Transportation rules, any airline flying to or from the United States must offer a 24-hour cancellation window for a full refund back to your original payment method. As long as Olivia booked her flight at least 7 days before the scheduled departure, she has the legal right to cancel for free within that first day. The fix is simple. Cancel the expensive seat immediately and rebook at the lower price. This works for almost every major carrier. Olivia got her full refund within 3 days and kept that $350 in her own pocket. Now you know how to fix a major booking blunder. But what happens if the airline cancels the flight on you? That is a story for another time. The airlines really don't want you to know these secrets, so hit that subscribe button right now to stay one step ahead of the system.